for more on this news in the UK and its economy. Let's bring in Remi Piet. He's a senior partner at Embellie Advisory. Welcome to the show. Let me start with this. A lot of our viewers don't realize this, but he was voted in with an overwhelming majority in the face of Brexit. And it's been, several years since then. What happened?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the victory in 2019 was of a historical magnitude for the Tories, and that actually proved that indeed, Boris Johnson was a very good campaigner, but quite a poor prime minister. If you actually look at the result after almost 3 years in power of difficult economic situation, a lack of trust, a series of scandals, the latest one of a political sexual allegation against one of his closest allies in Parliament that he tried to again cover up at the beginning. I mean, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and in the capacity of him being able to provide gain support from his MPs and create an element of trust and support and show the example in a political situation where the England and Great Britain deserves to have a leader that will actually show integrity and be able to follow on the steps of complying with their promises and showing example at time of hardship, both socially with the pandemics and economically right now with the rise of inflation. So indeed, I mean that's the proof that unfortunately Boris Johnson hasn't been able to be a high-level caliber prime minister, and even when he actually delivered his speech of moving forward, he actually again called about the herd of the MPs that just followed the rumors instead of taking acknowledging his limitation and a series of scandals. Yeah. And that shows the legacy of Boris Johnson.
I'm sure his advisors looking back at the events over the past several weeks and thinking back what could have been done differently, but I suppose it's a moot point now. For those of us that don't honestly follow UK politics that closely, he is now the caretaker prime minister. Share with us what that means for the country and how long does this last for, and what that means for policies going forward.
So basically what happened with a series of resignation is that Boris Johnson lost the leadership of his party, and the leader of the party is de facto the prime minister. What needs to happen now is for the Conservative Party, which is holds the majority in Parliament, to agree on the successor, and during that time there should be a caretaker to be able to continue the common businesses of the government. It could have been Dominic Raab, which is the vice prime minister, but instead of this, Boris Johnson will stay until the decision will be taken on a new leadership for the party. A decision that might actually take quite some time, up to the end of October. There's already a plethora of candidates, from Ben Wallace, the current Defense Secretary, to Liz Truss, which is the Foreign Affairs Secretary Minister, sorry, and this debate and trying to find new leadership might actually drag along at a time where the United Kingdom would need to have strong policies and strong decision at the helm. Unfortunately, Boris Johnson might have the capacity to move forward from new policies and doesn't seem to be willing to step down and provide some new breath for his party and his country.
You say drag along and it's going to take time. How much time are we talking about?
I mean, if you look at the text, we could actually take up to October 22nd, so deep into the fall. There could be a decision from the party to rally behind one potential leader, but looking again at already 10 potential representative or ministers that have already informed of their interest in running for being at 10 Downing Street, this is probably going to take a long time, and Boris Johnson will probably stay at the helm of the United Kingdom until at least September, if not October.
Boris Johnson was just in Ukraine a short while ago, and he's been known as a staunch supporter of Ukraine. And you're talking about October. So between now and October, there's going to be a lot of decisions to be made. What's going to happen?
Well, regarding Ukraine, you have some kind of consensus across the aisles here in the UK. So taking a decision of additional military support to Ukraine, or supporting the European Union leaderships in terms, and the American leadership in terms of supporting Volodymyr Zelensky, that should not be an issue that should be able to pass quite easily in the House of Commons. So that in terms of the impact on supporting Ukraine, you should not see a strong impact on this. It's more in terms of domestic politics, a series of bills in terms of tax reforms, investment in infrastructure, additional potential campaigns of fighting against COVID-19 at a time where we're seeing a new wave of the pandemics. These are, the more complex decisions that unfortunately a caretaker doesn't have the legitimacy to move forward and implement. Then again, we might be surprised, and there might be some rallying behind one specific leader that would actually speed up the process of having Boris Johnson step down from his position of caretaker. But this is unlikely, especially when we're seeing the plethora of candidates from Liz Truss, Ben Wallace, Sanjeev Sunak, others that are already in line to try to convince their fellow parliamentary member to run for them.
Yeah, before we went on the air, there were already, I saw calls for him to not even be caretaker, in fact, and to speed it even faster, to your point. Remi Piet, I could talk for an hour on this. Thank you very much for helping us clarify what, to a lot of us, is a very confusing situation. Thank you.
My pleasure, Phil.